The Moon Palace awoke as it always did, slowly, silently, like a breath drawn in cold air. The moon rose over the eastern horizon, silver light spilling through crystal walls, illuminating corridors of jade and floors of frozen starlight. The celestial architecture gleamed with an otherworldly glow, each surface reflecting and amplifying the pale luminescence until the entire palace seemed to be carved from moonlight itself. Chang'e moved through her morning rituals with the precision of someone who had performed them for millennia. She adjusted the lunar glow with a gesture, a whisper to the tides, a command to the shadows. She ensured the night travelers below were guided safely home, the sailors on dark seas finding their way by her light, the lovers walking home under her silver blessing. But beneath the grandeur, there was the silence. No voice, no footsteps, no warmth. Only the wind through jade corridors, the eternal hum of a palace with no heartbeat, the vast and complete isolation of a goddess who had not felt another presence in centuries. The palace was magnificent. The palace was empty. These two truths existed simultaneously, as they always had, as they always would. The Moon Palace existed in a realm between realms, not quite heaven, not quite earth, suspended in the celestial sphere where the stars were close enough to touch and the world below was small enough to hold in a single glance. The jade floors gleamed like frozen rivers. The crystal walls refracted 1,000 stars. The view of Earth was eternal, cities lighting up and darkening in their rhythm, seasons painting the land in endless variation, lives beginning and ending in the space between one breath and the next. She guarded all of this. She guarded the night, the dreams, the secret meetings between lovers who swore their devotion under her glow. She guarded the sailors who navigated by her light, the children who slept safer when moonlight touched their windows, the ancient rituals that called her name in languages she no longer remembered. She gave light to everyone. She illuminated every darkness except her own. The palace was a gift from the heavens, a reward for her sacrifice, a throne in the sky. It was also a showcase, a demonstration of divine power to the mortal realm below. Everyone saw the beauty. Everyone marveled at the radiance. No one saw the cold. No one asked if the moon goddess was warm. The private hours were the hardest. After the rituals, after the moon was set in its eternal path and the night was secured, she returned to the interior of the palace. Empty halls stretched before her, each step echoing against marble that had never known the warmth of a hand. Her chambers were cold, not from any failure of divine climate control, but from something deeper, something architectural in the soul. The silk robes hung untouched in their cedar closets. The jade comb sat idle in its lacquered box, no one to see her hair, no one to watch her fingers move through the dark waves as she prepared for bed that would never come. She sat alone on her moonstone throne, a seat carved from the very heart of the lunar orb, and for the first time in centuries, she felt the weight of the silence. Not physical weight, something heavier, something more permanent. The realization arrived slowly, like moonlight creeping across a floor over the course of an hour. She had become so strong in her isolation that she no longer knew how to be anything else. The strength that made her a goddess had become the cage that kept her alone. She was untouchable. She was unreachable. She was, in every way that mattered, unreachable.
The transformation was not instantaneous, though the stories always told it that way. The old tales spoke of a single moment, the swallowing of the elixir, the rising through the clouds, the arrival at the Moon Palace as a finished goddess complete and perfect and ready for her eternal reign. The truth was messier, more painful, more human. She did not choose immortality for its own sake. She chose it because it was the only way to survive the shattering, the moment her world broke so completely that she could not imagine continuing as she had been. Her husband, Archer Yi, had been killed by his own arrows, the sons he had been sent to destroy, exacting their final revenge. He was gone. He was not coming back. And she was left in a world that no longer made sense, a world where love could end in a single afternoon, where trust could become a death sentence. She fled. She fled the grief that threatened to drown her, the pain of being left behind, the unbearable weight of memory. And in fleeing, she became something that could not be hurt again. The mortal woman died, slowly, painfully, voluntarily. The goddess rose, and with her rise, the wall was built, stone by stone, year by year, until it reached the heavens.
The gods noticed her strength. How could they not? In a celestial court filled with deities who complained and doubted and wavered, she was an island of unwavering resolve. They called her the most resilient deity in heaven. They whispered that she had transcended the weaknesses that plagued immortals and mortals alike. The attachment, the need, the desperate hunger for connection. They gave her more duties. Guard the night, they said. Watch over dreamers. Ensure the moon never falters. Keep the darkness company. Each duty was a gift, each one a testament to her capability, a recognition of her strength, and each one added another stone to the wall. More responsibility meant more distance. More distance meant more solitude. More solitude meant less practice at the art of being with another. No one approached the moon goddess anymore. She was too powerful, too remote, too composed. What would they even say to her? What could they possibly offer that she could not give herself? The stronger she became, the more untouchable she grew, and she let them believe it. She encouraged it even, because the alternative, vulnerability, was unbearable. The wall was not built by the gods. It was built by her own hands, with her own conviction, mortared with her own tears that dried before they could fall. In the heart of the palace stood the moon pool, a still surface that did not reflect her image, but instead showed truth. It was a gift from the Queen Mother of the West, a tool for self-examination, a mirror for the soul. She looked into it now, as she had looked into it 1,000 times before, and she saw two faces: the moon goddess, radiant, composed, eternal, the strongest deity in the celestial court, the guardian of the night, the keeper of dreams, the light in the darkness for billions below. She saw the power in those eyes, the unshakable resolve, the absolute certainty that had carried her through millennia of solitude. But beneath it, she saw the mortal woman she had once been, the one who loved Archer Yi, not the legend, but the man, the one who laughed at his terrible jokes and braided flowers into her hair for his return, the one who wept when he left and wept harder when he did not come back, the one who was afraid, so terribly afraid of existing in a world without him. The two faces did not fight. They had never fought. They had simply merged over time into one. She was both, and neither. She was the goddess who could not be broken, and the woman who had broken herself to ensure it. She was the strongest one. She was the loneliest one. And in the moon pool's terrible truth, she could not tell the difference anymore. The prayer rose from earth like smoke from incense, carried on the night air through the celestial barrier until it reached her ears with the faint clarity of a bell struck in a distant temple. It was not a prayer for light. It was not a prayer for guidance or protection or blessing. It was a prayer of wonder, the simple, pure wonder of a child who had been taught to look up at the moon and ask a question that no adult had ever thought to answer.
What is it like to live in the palace? Is it lonely up there? The prayer reached her like a flicker of warmth in endless cold. Someone was wondering about her, not what she gave, not what she could provide, who she was, what she felt, whether the moon goddess, radiant and powerful and eternal, experienced the same loneliness that mortal children feared in the dark. For one moment, one brief, dangerous moment, she allowed herself to remember the warmth of another presence beside her, the sound of breathing in the quiet hours before dawn, the simple miracle of being known by another soul, of having someone who saw you not as a goddess or a symbol or a function, but as a person who was sometimes tired, sometimes sad, sometimes in need of being held. The memory faded. The prayer ended. The child was asleep now, tucked into bed by a parent who had answered the question with the easy mythology of gods and legends. And the cold returned, deeper than before, and she sealed the door that much tighter. She could not afford to remember. Memory was a luxury she had surrendered long ago.
The truth she could not avoid, no matter how many walls she built, no matter how many duties she performed, no matter how brightly she burned in the night sky, she was the strongest goddess in heaven, and she was the most alone. The Moon Palace was the most beautiful place in all the realms, crystal and jade, silver and starlight, architecture that made mortal craftsmen weep in despair at its perfection. But it was also the coldest. Not the cold of winter, which at least promised spring. The cold of absence. The cold of a room that had forgotten what laughter sounded like. She had everything except the one thing that could not be given by duty or decree or divine mandate: connection. She had guarded the night for millennia. She had never been guarded. She had lit the way for billions of travelers below. She had never been seen, truly seen, in the way that mortals saw each other, with all the imperfections and vulnerabilities visible and accepted. The palace was not her home. It was her exhibit, a showcase of strength maintained for the benefit of the realm below, who looked up and saw her light and believed she was blessed. They did not know. They could not know. To be a goddess was to be a symbol, and to be a symbol was to be forever alone. She was not a goddess. She was a monument to strength, beautiful, untouchable, frozen. And the coldest place in heaven was not the outer reaches of the celestial sphere, where the stars burned blue and distant. The coldest place in heaven was her throne. The episode ends at the edge of the Moon Palace, where the jade terraces give way to the vast cosmos, where the last of the palace's light fades into the eternal darkness between stars. Chang'e stands at the threshold, not the threshold of her palace, but the threshold of her existence. Below, Earth turns in its patient rotation. Lovers embrace in moonlit gardens. Children laugh as they play in evening streets. Old men sit in doorways and remember the people they have loved and lost. The world moves. The world changes. The world connects, constantly, eternally, in ways she has forgotten how to do. And she stands above it all, untouchable, eternal, strong. The guardian of the night, the keeper of dreams, the moon goddess. The palace gates are open. They have always been open. Every celestial citizen is welcome to visit, to worship, to bask in her radiance, but she cannot walk through them. Not because she is forbidden, because she has forgotten how. The wall is too high. The fear is too deep. The strength that carried her through millennia has become the chains that keep her bound. She chose strength. She chose immortality. She chose the cold. And now, at the edge of forever, looking down at a world she can never rejoin, she realizes the cruelest truth of her eternal existence. You can survive anything: the death of love, the loss of self, the slow erosion of everything that made you human. You can survive all of that, but you cannot survive alone forever. The moon glows, the world sleeps, and Chang'e, the strongest one, remains, unbroken, untouchable, unwhole. The coldest palace in heaven holds its goddess in an embrace that feels like nothing at all. And that, perhaps, is the deepest wound of all.